but a true friend. Ah, the pain. Hello, Aromas. This is Aromie here, and welcome back to our life beginnings and always. Don't forgot the name, but we are back with Step 3 DLC. So it's already been out for like maybe a couple months now, but I believe when it launched I was on vacation, and now I'm back from vacation. It's been well over almost 2 months since vacation. But we are here to now play Step 3. I know many of you guys were anticipating me playing it, and here I am. Things look a little different. My hair is different. The quality of my webcam should be different because I'm using a DSLR camera now. But you would already know that if you watch my other current series. But if you haven't tuned into my channel, those have been the changes. But here we are with our life 1.3. This build fixed minor errors from the 1.2 version, but the main purpose of the update was to add info that's required for the optional Step 3 DLC to function fully if installed. Thank you for playing. Hopefully I installed it. We already did this part, did we not? So now we have 5 DLCs to go with, and I'm just gonna keep it like how I did before, where I keep one episode each dedicated to that one DLC. And then I'm not gonna, I guess we should hit end summer, but I already did the whole end summer already on the channel, so I'm not gonna like record that again. We're just gonna focus on the DLC this time until Step 4 eventually arrives, and it'll be the end of the game. It'll be the last time we'll see Cove. Anywho, let's go with reflection. After finishing breakfast at the Holden's house, you and Cove had retreated to his room to relax before starting the day in earnest. Or perhaps you would take it easy for the whole afternoon. Neither of you had plans exactly, so you're free to do whatever came to your mind. You were lazing in Cove's bed, you fiddle with the Rubik's Cube. Fuck that, I don't know how to play with that. Instead, watching Cove's fish swim idly around their tank, you sat on the ground doodling pictures in the sand scattered across the floor. You would think Cove would clean up his sand. I think I would probably laze around on his bed. It was so cozy that you had to fend off the urge to fall back asleep. Cove lounged in a similarly eased manner. He had his phone up and was idly scrolling through something on it as you enjoyed one another's presence nearby. A burst of laughter broke the silence, hooking your attention and bringing it back to the present. You looked at Cove for an explanation. His eyes now crinkled with mirth. We're still locked on his screen. Are you gonna let me in on the joke? He finally looked up at you, smirking. Dad scanned some old photos, you know. He drew a rectangle in the air with the free hand. Printed out once, back from when I was little. He texted it all to me last night, I guess. I've been checking them out. You're looking at your kitty photos and didn't tell me? Can I see? That's cool. You smiled. That sounded nice. You sat up wide-eyed and hopeful. You wanted to see. You were looking at your photos and you weren't showing me? Cove narrowed his eyes, smile still bent. I was gonna show you. I just wanted to look at it first to make sure there was nothing super embarrassing. You never know with my dad. He grimaced and I don't know that word. What horrors? I know what it means, but I don't know how to pronounce it. What horrors his dad might unwittingly spring on him? What if there's a photo of me getting potty trained or something? You suppressed an empathetic shudder and nodded. You laughed at Cove's fraught expression. Kid pictures are supposed to be embarrassing. That's part of the fun. I think that's part of the fun, you know? There's gonna be embarrassing photos. I think there was a photo of my brother. He was like sitting in a pot and I was holding a whisk or something in one of the photos. I think that was pretty like silly and cute. He was holding out on you, but your protest was of no use. Cove only cleared his throat nervously, the fear of his dad's well-meaning action still looming large in his mind. Anyway, before we forget, I was laughing because I came across a Halloween one from when I was 8, the year I was a zombie, remember? He shook his head, grinning. Did we have a Halloween episode? Did we have a Halloween story? Because your girl don't remember. Grinning wryly while holding the phone out to you. Oh, Cove, yo, that's a pretty shit. How do I don't even, is it print screen? How do you screenshot again? S? Was it S? Okay, it was S. I don't know the buttons anymore. That's pretty good makeup for like, you know, an 8-year-old costume. Did your dad do it? Because if so, man, pretty nice. I never even liked zombies. All I wanted was to show off my new scar. Oh, that's not makeup. That's actual scar. This here is makeup. All I wanted was to show off a new scar, and it needed to be something scary. I couldn't be a normal person who had a scar, according to my 8-year-old mind. I was a little dork.
Right?
Dad really wanted to be useful as usual. He came up with the idea of being an undead person. It was pretty good, huh? Man, I was so jealous of that look. It was good, but my costume that year was better. Liz was so grossed out and Shiloh was terrified. I remember you getting lots of extra candy when Dotes realized the scar was real. It was hard seeing your arm like that. I don't really remember. Honestly, I do not remember, but he is so hyped up, so... I was so jealous of that look. You tried your best, but it was hard to compete with a real-life scar, or so you'd wistfully thought at the time. Bill chuckled at your reply. I can't believe how much larger my scar used to be. What does it look like now? It's right here. It's small. Healing perfectly. He looked down at his arm and saw a smile on his face and traced what remained of the jagged line with his fingers just as you'd seen him do countless times before. His voice was playful when he spoke again. Look how tiny it is now. How am I gonna pretend to be tough without a big scar? Okay, I had to just double check my mic was recording because there's been so many times where I recorded and the mic was not rolling. Cove, you've never fooled anyone. You're relieved that he accepted and even liked its scar. It's a definite blow to your street cred. It still looks cool. You better not do anything stupid to get a new scar. You joke, wagging a finger at him, sighed in a long-suffering way. I mean, I'm relieved that he's accepting and even liking his scar now, because some people, like, have multiple scars on their body and they don't ever like it. Cove smiled bashfully, pleased with his joke, and ducked his head to look away from you. His fingers were still tracing the scarred patch of skin. I really do like having this, even if it is kind of little these days. His voice was shy, like he was letting you in on a big secret. Cove turned back to face you fully, finally letting go of his scar. He was happy that Mark was part of him and clearly held meaning for Cove. Reaching over, you laid a reassuring hand on his arm where the scar was. Could I touch your scar? You smiled back at him. I think we're boyfriend and girlfriend already, right, guys? Be handsy, you know, fuck it. You cupped his arm with your fingers carefully as your thumb ran down the outline of his scar. Along with the rougher tissues of the scar, you could also feel goosebumps on his arm. Cove let out a choked breath, a dizzy smile playing out on his face. It was evident that he liked the feeling. Oh? Oh? You stopped there, not bothering to suppress the grin on your face. You liked teasing that reaction from Cove. Your eyes drifted back to the scar on Cove's arm. The scar had been there as long as you'd known Cove, though when you'd first met, it had been concealed by that neon pink cast.
So?
Do you want to hear how it happened? How it was hurt? I remember not choosing to learn how he got the scar, because I chose another option. I don't know what I chose, but... You were initially stunned that he'd guessed what you were thinking, though given the topic conversation and the direction of your gaze, it was a natural conclusion to reach. Not bothered by your reaction, Cove continued with a shrug. I don't mind telling you, it's nothing special. He rubbed the back of his neck, grinning sheepishly. Mostly just really dumb. You nodded. That was something you'd like to hear more about, especially knowing that no lasting harm had come of it. Cove stared into the distance, lips parted as he readied the story in his mind. So me, my dad, and mom were at a party. I don't know if it was a casual get-together or a specific celebration. I hope it wasn't for something meaningful, considering how I ended it. He winced, then managed a bashful smile. Anyway, my mom and dad were off doing stuff, talking to people, I guess. I was left with the other non-adults. Most of them were older than I was. Maybe all of them were? His brow furrowed as he tried to recall dusty memories, and he shrugged again and continued. The older kids were taking turns on the jet skis. There weren't enough for everyone to ride at once, so in between turns they were hanging out on the shore. I was meant to just sit there with them and watch. Remembering when you first met Cove, you bet that he hadn't been satisfied with that arrangement. He confirmed that suspicion. I was pretty unhappy. It was a party for me, not when all I could do was look at other people have fun when I couldn't. The teens must have realized that, though I never hid when I was pouting as a kid. What? Though I never hid when I was pouting as a kid? Only when you were a kid? Cove bristled with embarrassment. It looked pretty sulky to you. Come on, let me finish the story. Alright. Cove sighed, letting go of the interruption and picking up where he left off.
Well...
Basically, someone offered to let me ride. I was way too small to drive it myself, but this older kid, they must have been at least 16, said I could sit in front of them while they controlled the jet ski. I knew I wasn't supposed to do anything like that. Still, I figured my parents were doing whatever they wanted, so why couldn't I? Bad mindset as a kid. I nodded at the person. I remembered the other teens helping me onto the jet ski, along with the one driving. We sped off into the water. Code smiled wildly and wistfully. It was amazing at first. My hair was flying everywhere. I was zoomed away from the shore. I love being out on the water like that. Too bad it turned out steering a jet ski with an 8-year-old sat on your lap was harder than a bunch of kids figured it would be. The teens tried their best, but they couldn't keep control for long. We got spun around and went right into the sand. We sucked in a deep breath. The other person wasn't hurt. Thankfully, they held on to the bars and stayed in their seat. I didn't. I was thrown at full speed into a rocky— oh God! And a rocky part of the shore near the dock. I must have tried to brace for impact or catch myself, because my arm is what I mostly landed on. He looked down to the limb in question. You could see him visualizing the long-healed injury. It was pretty torn up. After that, it's hazy for me. I got taken to the hospital. I didn't feel a lot of pain when it first happened. All I remember thinking about was how it was covered in sand and the grains were uncomfortable. The sand was uncomfortable? Cove chuckled. I know, right? I did start feeling my arm later. It definitely hurt eventually. The doctor said my arm was broken along with being torn open. That's how I ended up getting my pink cast. He smiled nostalgically. That color, it seemed just nice and happy at the time. It brightened the mood, so I picked it. The smile faded. He finished the story with his eyes downcast. I feel bad I did any of that. I hope whoever that teen was, they weren't traumatized by seeing a little kid go flying into the ground. They were just trying to do a nice thing. Cove threw arms out to the side dramatically. I wish I knew who they were so I could give them a call and say I'm still in one piece. But yeah, that's the full story. That 16-year-old will probably never be, like, offering help to a child ever again if it's with a jet ski. I'm so glad you're okay in the long run. I'm really sorry that happened. You laughed at what a terrible idea had been. How could you be so reckless? You didn't know how to react. I'm so glad you're okay. You're both okay in the long run. That's the important thing. Cove sighed again, the regret written plainly on his face. It was a failure. That's just the truth. Sorry, I keep yawning because your girl woke up so fucking early on a day off for no reason. He smiled flatly, but to my credit, I think I've grown a lot since then. Wait. Cove's eyes went completely wide. Suddenly reinvigorated, he seized his phone and tapped away at the screen. What's up? I knew it! You weren't sure that he heard you, but he set his phone down and turned to face directly to you. His face was resolute, though the glow of the screen was no longer reflected in his eyes. They seemed to sparkle even brighter than before. Michiko, we're adults. We can decide things for ourselves now. Yes, Cove, we can. Did you just realize that? You only realize that now? Okay, where's this going? This can't be going anywhere good. I like where this is headed. You waited for him to explain further. I think I would joke around. You only realize that now? The age requirement to rent a jet ski in California is 18. We could totally do it. Yes, no, let's use our adult powers for jet skiing adventure. You want to break another bone? There are more exciting things adults can do, you joked. You were silently shocked. Let's use our adult powers for jet skiing adventure. Cove beamed, pumping the air with both fists. Definitely the action is so immature enough to rent a vehicle. Alright! Within a moment, Cove had recovered and returned to his serious expression from before. I'll be careful, and I really want you to be there when I try again. Please? His voice was soft and earnest. You could tell how much the request meant to him. You also knew him enough to know that he wasn't going to give up on this idea. Letting him go on his own was an option. Of course I'll be there, I wouldn't miss it. I actually love jet skiing. I'd be interested in trying jet skiing. I'll keep an eye on you from the shore. I've never done jet skiing before. I've done like paragliding. But jet skiing can't be as bad, right? I'm just gonna wear a life suit. Life suit, is that what it's called? Cove perked up at once. A grin stretched wide across his face. He was practically bouncing in place. Let's go! You got up and worked as a team together, everything you needed for the trip. Oh my god. Cove's other aquatic hobbies came in handy, and he was quickly kitted out with everything he needed other than jet skis themselves. He needed to run back home briefly, having dressed and prepared for a day that didn't involve jet skiing, but soon enough you were both ready and jumping into Cove's car. As you got in, you learned that Cove had used a brief time apart to locate a rental store on his phone. You caught his eye as you clicked your seatbelt into place. Excited you had out a hand, Cove slapped it in a high five before setting off. You and Cove soon arrived. The ocean was perfectly inviting today. The deep blue of the water glittered in the clear sky while the tide rolled in and out at its leisure. I'm so excited for this. You were just as pumped as he was. His excitement was adorable. You felt a little worried. You felt a chill of fear. You're really doing this. You didn't know how to feel. I think his excitement was adorable. Seeing how pleased you were, Coke grinned at you.
Hey.
Oh, hey, want to say hi to my dad while we're here? I've already texted my mom about the plan. He's working right now. You remembered how close his shop was. It wouldn't take long even by walking. Yeah, let's go brighten his day with our cheery faces. Mr. Holden was a verified stunner. You were happy to check him out while Coke checked in. Oh.
Sorry.
Your dad is hot, though. Thanks. Sorry, it might be kind of awkward when he hears why we're here, but it should be alright. I mean, my parents forgave me a long time ago for that amazing stunt. Dude, I'm not over my girl basically saying she's gonna check his dad out. I don't want to be scared off just jet skiing for my whole life because of it. You wondered which of you Cove was attempting to reassure. What? It was only a short walk back down the dock to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. Cove breezed in as familiar with the store as he was with his own home. The place was quiet, empty aside from a couple customers quietly browsing Cove's dad behind the counter. Mr. Holden looked up, his friendly expression spreading into a grin when he saw who had just entered.
Hey!
Hey, Mr. Holden. Hi, Michiko. Hey, sport. What brings you all the way out here? He cast an eye at the way the two of you were dressed. Judging by how you're decked out, I'm guessing scuba diving. There's plenty here for that. What can I help you with? Joke's on you. Cove chuckled, amused by how quickly his dad seized on a favorite topic, not opportunity, sorry. Or maybe it was how his dad always fell over himself trying to be useful. Hi, Dad. We're not doing that this time. We sort of decided to go rent a couple of jet skis. The phrase jet skis had set Mr. Holden's mouth in a taut line immediately. Jet skis. He echoed the words as his eyes instinctively darted to the scar on Cove's arm. That's when Mr. Holden started to speak several times, each attempt quickly abandoned. Cove smiled encouragingly, trying not to add to his father's worries.
Don't worry about it.
I promise I'll be careful, and Michiko will be there too. Don't be saying that. I'm the most clumsy-ass person you ever meet, alright? We always look out for each other. Mr. Holden pinched his face back into an unconvincing smile.
Right.
Alright, you're a whole lot bigger now than you were back then. Heck, you can drive a car and everything. I'm sure you and Michiko will have plenty of fun. The worry still echoed out in his voice, barely concealed by the positive words, but Cove was buoyed by his father's support. Yeah, well, we're all set. We only stopped by to say hi and let you know, since we were over here. Mr. Holden beamed, obviously moved by his son's simple consideration. Wow, you're so thoughtful. Thanks for taking the time. Cove gave his dad a crooked smile, shaking his head bashfully. He'd long stopped fighting his dad's effusive praise, but that didn't mean he'd ever become good at accepting it. Mr. Holden simply laughed at his son's response. It'd be great if you could keep me in the loop while you're out there too. Just text me and let me know if it's going well, or anything. Well, we can't text you on a jet ski. Our phone's not waterproof. I will. His dad smiled more easily.
Hey.
Cove rubbed at his arm, causing Mr. Holden's eyes to momentarily twitch back to the childhood injury.
Bye.
We're gonna head out. See you later. Take care. Oh, Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden! It's been so long since I've seen you. Don't work too hard. Mr. Holden waved you off as you left the store. The pair of you headed back to the docks, walking side by side. After your feet hit the boards, Cove's pace fell. Glancing over, you saw him looking down, out over the water. That wouldn't have been unusual if his expression hadn't been so somber. He wasn't geared up with anticipation or even nervousness, but with an uncharacteristic lethargy. I can't let it roll. Something was weighing heavy on his mind. I think I'm consuming too much air as I'm reading out loud. Cove, what's up? You're gonna walk right off into the sea if you don't pay attention. You nudge him gently. I think I would nudge him gently. Your blink started by you interrupting his rumination.
Sorry.
He sighed, though you torn his attention from the ocean. It gradually drifted back to the water. You cleared your throat, unwilling to lose him again. Excuse me. Sorry again. He put his hands to his face, rubbing his eyes wearily. Here I go, thinking everything is resolved with what's happened, and we go have fun. But I can't just enjoy anything. I had to find something else to get stuck in my head. You're having second thoughts about jet skiing?
No.
That's not it. The ends of his lips were drawn into the beginning of a frown, like gray clouds clustering to signal a coming storm. I figured my dad would be a little worried about me doing it, but what he was saying, it wasn't what I expected. He was so sad. It was more than nervous. I think he feels bad, and now I feel bad, but it isn't as if I'm the only one who ever does something stupid or gets hurt. It got me thinking about that whole time. That's when I realized it wasn't long after that accident that my parents separated. We're gonna stay quiet here. As a kid, I didn't think about the consequences of my actions, you know? Or how what I did impacted other people. Like, why should anyone care? I'm the one doing it, not them. It made no sense, and I still cared when other people did things I didn't like. But I was 8 and mostly just mad that nothing felt like it was in my control. You could tell that he was building up to something, so you nodded for him to continue. It was pretty difficult to deal with because of that attitude, but looking back, I think that's what saved me from something a lot of kids go through, blaming themselves for their parents' divorce. It never crossed my mind that anything I did made a difference on my mom and dad's relationship. They would do what they want, or they would do what they did no matter what. I can't read, sorry. Now, well, I guess it's kind of hard to ignore that thought, huh?
I mean...
Their situation was already so hard, and I wasn't a good kid, so... He left his words adrift as he looked down, the conclusion unfinished. It was silent between you. But only for a second. Cove pulled himself up to his full height, his chin held aloft. Whatever he decided, he was resolute. I'm going back. I've got to talk to my dad. I'm not going to let things be like before, where I just feel crappy and refuse to even tell him what's going on. That doesn't work for either of us.
Bye.
You can go ahead if you want. I won't mind. I still really want to do this, and I'm sure it'll be okay. See you later? What? You nodded, you shook your head. I want to stay with you. There's no way you're going off on your own. No, what the fuck? I want to stay with you. We always look out for each other, remember? Code smiled gently, having wanted that deep down. Oh, did you? Well, good. Because your girl is just going to stick to you. Thanks, let's go. Besides, like, he rented them out and everything. Why the fuck would I be like, peace out, see you later? What? You and Cove retook your steps down the docks once more, heading back to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. The customers who spotted in there before were now leaving the store, new bags clutched in their hands. Well, good thing they bought stuff. You hoped that this would mean Cove could have his conversation without a public audience. This time, Cove strode inside the shop with purpose. Mr. Holden, still at the counter, glanced up to whoever had come inside. He grinned as he approached.
How's it going?
Hello again. Forget something? Sort of. Cove had reached the counter now. You needed to rush just to keep up with him as he crossed the show floor. Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow, taking Cove's shift in attitude, and chose his next words with care. Is everything alright? Cove swallowed, not answering him initially. Talking openly with his dad was still somewhat new for the son. You knew that he was struggling for the right way to begin. I wanted to ask about what happened. That face. He was like, shit. I didn't expect this. I didn't want to expect this. Mr. Holden winced as if the words had struck him physically. The accident? No, the divorce. The pain expression fell from Mr. Holden's face, wide-eyed. His jaw slack. He gaped at Cove.
Huh?
Why? Cove glanced over his shoulder at you. As your eyes met, you saw him draw confidence by having you by his side. He turned back to his father. I want to know the truth. His tone was grave. Didn't you getting into the accident hurt your marriage? If I hadn't done it, would you and Mom have gotten along better? Oh! That's obviously a no. I'm pretty sure there's more shit to that. No, hell no. Mr. Holden squashed. Not squashed? Okay. The suggestion is with the gravity you'd rarely heard in his voice. You're 8 years old. You're not responsible in any way. Kyra and I should have protected you. I can understand why you're feeling that. What happened was so horrible. How could it not have an impact? It did. It was a reflection of us as parents. The relationship between just your mom and me was separate and already unsalvageable. Damn. That sucks. Cove turned away, his brows still furrowed as he looked at the floor. Maybe I'm being anxious and it's taking over, but it wasn't just that. I always caused problems. He plowed on, unwilling to give up without explaining his worries. What if I'd been easier to raise, or if you'd had me later on? Maybe even if you didn't have me at all. Excuse me! It might have been better for the two of you. If I didn't have you, then what good would my life be? Mr. Holden didn't let the words hang unchallenged in the air for even a second. He hurried over to Cove, taking his son's arms in his hands. Cove, listen. There's only one person to blame for things not working, and that's me. Cove opened his mouth to speak, but Mr. Holden forced on, determined to erase any question in Cove's mind. I'm not saying this to dishonestly push accountability off from someone else or to throw a pity party for myself. You want to know the truth, so that's what I'm giving you. Were you a playboy? Your father is the reason our family couldn't stay together. You think you caused trouble. You should have seen me at your age. You're such a good kid. I can hardly believe how good you are. Mr. Holden's eyes were misty as he squeezed his son's arms. There's nothing, absolutely nothing you need to blame yourself for. I'm sorry, Cove. To you and to Kyra. Mom? Yeah, your mom. His pained face eased slightly into a bittersweet smile. Kyra was just so smart and driven and completely bursting with life. It was as if she could do anything. You know, there wasn't a single solitary person who didn't want even a piece of her attention, just to catch her eye for a moment. But for some crazy reason, she had a soft spot for my 17-year-old screw-up self. You know, the girls always go for the bad boys first. That's when we first met, though it definitely took some time before I managed to ask her out on a date. Mr. Holden shook his head, the smile melting as his recollection became solemn once more. And then would only been officially together for about 6 months when we found out we were having a baby. Oh shit. I was so worried, so scared, but she was so brave. She was my rock, but we both knew the road ahead was going to be rockier. When we got married, I didn't see it as a dream come true. I wasn't about to start living my life in the only way I could imagine doing so. I thought what happened, happened, and throwing my cards in with a girl like her was worth the risk. Sounds kinda bad. Like, this sounds bad, but this happens regularly in life, so it sucks. It shouldn't be like this, though. He grimaced, the sentence sour in his mouth, regretting his past perspective. I had been taking care of myself on my own and getting by. Then all of a sudden I was going to have a wife and a child. So I thought, alright, I better step things up and take care of all of us. And that's what I did, sort of. He rolled his eyes. I made money, kept the roof over our heads, and put food on the table, but I was always busy, focused on taking care of things, that I didn't stop to consider what anyone else was thinking or what they actually needed. I made every decision about what I did, and as a result, what happened to the family by myself, never asking what your mom felt or even wondering if she might have an opinion. I'd tell Kyra about the great place I'd found and how we'd be moving there in the same breath, or that I spent all our savings and taken out a loan to start this business we're standing in, and even more nonsense. Anything I felt I needed to do, I did. Kyra couldn't even ask where I'd been all day without me rolling my eyes like she was being a nag. I was making sure we didn't starve, obviously, right? Couldn't she trust me? He sighed, his head hung low. I understand his perspective too, but again, a relationship is two people. So that's where he fucked up, because I'm sure she didn't want him to do all this by himself, because from the way he's talking about it, about Kyra was also independent, so she could have also helped. She went to school part-time while raising you, really knuckling down, but that didn't matter to me back then. She could have spent her days lying in bed, not dying, and I would have felt the same. I didn't care. I was going to get it all done on my own either way. It was so stupid. I admired her more than anyone when there was nothing at stake. Yeah, as soon as responsibilities were involved, I couldn't let myself rely on her. He combed a hand through his hair, searching for an understanding of his own younger self. I'm not even sure why. Maybe he had something to prove. Maybe I'm the one who didn't trust her in the end. Poor Kyra. She had to spend every day mentally weighing the pros and cons of putting up with my horrible ideas for the sake of peace, or trying to explain to my blockheaded self what I was doing wrong. It must have been so stressful and frustrating, constantly having to let everything go because I was stubborn and absolutely would make a fight out of it. He snorted bitterly. I was definitely stuck in my head a lot those days. Our relationship at that point was made of arguments and cool tolerance, but I still generally didn't see the divorce coming. We made it through the first few years, and after that, I never really considered it ending. It was just how life was. In retrospect, it's clear Kyra kept thinking on it more every year, especially because she managed to finish her journalism degree, and with us being more stable, financially that is. She thought of everything. She even timed it right when your school ended for the year, so the process would hopefully be all settled before you had to worry about class again. Damn, girl. She had this all planned out. Probably had a binder and everything. We were already talking about it before the accident ever happened. I know I took it really hard being a sad sack all around the neighborhood, but even that is unfair of me. When it shook out, I'm the one who got everything. Kyra didn't want to leave you, Cove. She never would have. I'm certain she felt like she had no choice but to end the relationship. The business was doing really well by then, so I had an easier time making a living. She was between jobs, and when she did get a new job, it meant that she'd be traveling all the time. That's why she willingly accepted me having full custody. She didn't get to be there with her child for so many moments, and you had to spend half your life growing up without your mother, and it's my fault. Mr. Holden closed his eyes briefly as he took a breath. So that's it, the story of Cliff and Kyra's marriage. Not exactly a fairy tale, but I want to be clear. He saw his grip on Cove's arm tighten. No matter what happened with me and her, I'd never, ever want to miss out on being your dad. Cove's throat bobbed as he swallowed. His eyes glistened, glossy with tears that had yet to fall. He blinked quickly, trying to hold them back. Thank you for telling me. His voice was hoarse, little more than a whisper. Mr. Holden brought a hand up to his face and lightly nudged Cove's chin. You're welcome. You're a grown-up now, right? You deserve the truth. That's the least I could do for you. I wish my parents would tell me the truth of why they broke up, but I still haven't gotten that, and I'm like 20 plus. I would never get this closure that I want. Cove managed a fragile smile. Thank you for taking care of me, for all of it. Mr. Holden brushed the compliment off with a wave of his hand.
No worries.
I just felt like I was out of camera. It was nothing. Look at where we ended up. I've got this whole entire store, a house, friends here, a very thoughtful son. It's all good for me.
I'm so glad.
His voice was still quiet, and he ducked his head shyly after saying the words. Mr. Holden patted him on the back. You could see the tears in Cove's eyes still shining, threatening to spill over. Mr. Holden put an arm around his shoulders, gently steering him towards the door. You should go have fun, make some nice memories. Cove's gaze flicked over to you. The watery smile on his face solidified. This is so awkward. I'm just here the whole time listening to the whole story. Alright. Good. Now out you go. Mr. Holden nudged the two of you out of the shop. You both walked silently as you made your return to the dogs. Cove's face was pensive, clearly still digesting everything his dad said. He finally sighed, catching your attention. He hesitantly reached for the bag he had brought and raised it up.
Michiko.
I'm here, baby boy. I want to call my mom. That's fine. I'm here still. I'm not going to leave her out of things, and I want to know what she thinks about what happened and all that. He fiddled with the straps of his bag. It still remained closed shut. It's not like I don't trust Dad. It's just Mom's thoughts are important too. That's not a bad idea. I bet she'd have some interesting things to add. You seemed relieved that you understood. You knew he didn't want to be a bother with another delay. Thanks. Then I guess there's no time like the present. Time to ask. With that mini pep talk, he finally opened his bag and found his phone. Cove unlocked it quickly and tapped over to his favorite contacts. He called up his mom and put the phone on speaker as it dialed. Kyra must have had her phone close because she answered almost immediately.
Cove.
This is a pleasant surprise. I thought you'd be getting back to me later. Hey, Mom. He paused for a second, then looked at you. You're on speakerphone with Michiko, too. Hey, Kyra, hello. Hi, I'm here. You kept quiet. She already knew you were there. Hey, Kyra. Oh, hello. I'm popular today. Well, what's going on? Don't keep me in suspense. Are you a pro jet skier already? Ghost chuckled and scratched the back of his head. We haven't started yet. Actually, there's something I kind of want to ask you about.
Really?
I'm intrigued. Her voice was bright and excited. Cove moved the phone closer to his face so he could speak softly, aware that the tone of this conversation was about to change. I was talking to Dad earlier. It was about your relationship and why you both divorced. Ah. That one syllable had lost all her earlier energy. Cove tightened his grip on his phone. It does make sense that the past will come up today. Yeah, but... He tried to brighten up the mood again. You weren't used to him being the perky one of the two. You could only imagine it felt like a strange role reversal for him. Dad said you were really amazing. He admired you a lot. What a flatterer. She sighed wistfully, and you could hear some interference. Maybe she had shaken her head. You couldn't tell for sure. Oh, Cliff. He bungled himself through regular, everyday adulting social situations in an astoundingly charming way. Yet somehow at this exact same time, he was ambitious, slightly shady, under-the-table type of man when it came to making his living in the world. Under the table? What was he doing? So essentially, your father was an absolute heartthrob for someone such as myself. Sounds about right. Cove and Kyra laughed delicately. The tension was broken to something lighter, more familiar between the two. It's cool you both have nice things to say about each other. I agree, baby. Yeah, that's very true, because most, husbands and wives that divorce, 9 times out of 10, they hate each other's guts. She took a moment before continuing carefully. Do you have questions about what happened? I'm not sure. Coach squinted at the phone in his hand as he tried to think, his free hand brushing through his hair. I just kind of wanted to know how you described what it was like. Could I tell you what Dad said about it?
All right.
I don't think Cliff would mind. Whatever he told you is probably what he said to me. What he'd say to me. Alright, go for it. After taking a breath, Cove recapped Cliff's experience, doing his best to follow his dad's story. He went into a surprising amount of detail, and not a single thing was missed. Kyra listened on in absolute silence, letting her son speak without interruption. When Cove finished, he took another deep inhale of air. So what do you think? Kyra sighed softly. He heard a clacking noise like she was drumming her nails on the back of her phone or on a countertop. That definitely sounds like Clifford. It's not exactly wrong, but he doesn't have a total picture. He puts the emphasis on the wrong places, I think.
Huh?
What do you mean? For starters, Cliff unsurprisingly downplayed himself more than he had to. He did. You're saying he did more? Kobe's eyebrows raised, and his face continued to inch even closer to the screen.
Well,
Since your dad was praising of me, it's only fair to return the favor. When Cliff said he was already taking care of himself when he met me, he means he was on his own. Cliff's own parents weren't, and still aren't, friendly people. They've always had a combative relationship, though him getting to drinking and gambling as a teenager certainly didn't help. So he was a bad boy. He knew they'd kick him out at 18, so he'd saved them the trouble and left home at 17. He always found a way to make it work, even without support. I met him a few months after that. We hit it off right away. He was exactly what I wanted back then. We dated, and then about half a year later, BAM! You're on the way, Cove. She laughed fondly as Cove clung to every word. I was really optimistic about it all. I couldn't wait to be a mother, and I was more than happy that Cliff was the father who'd be along for the ride. We got married quick, before you were born. Close recollection of our wedded dynamic was pretty spot on. He was extremely stubborn and just, immature. Highly immature. His voice raised slightly. Her voice. And you got the feeling she was thinking back to her memories living with him. She left the specifics unspoken. But it's not like it was grown up either. For everyone except maybe Cliff, because their relationship was no good, or at least not good enough yet to commit to. I knew that, but I didn't want to give it up. I wanted to keep the family together. I thought that if we divorced or were never together, then we'd ruin your life, Cove. Obviously, that wasn't true. I just didn't have enough experience at the time to realize there was only one option for us. Maybe things would have been easier on you if we had split when you were still a baby, but it took me years to start figuring it all out. Cove nodded, even if his mom couldn't see it, thinking hard about something. He was likely remembering his own experiences back then. We were married, but never seriously loved each other. We hardly knew each other. I don't mind that Cliff never viewed marrying me as some kind of dream come true. I honestly appreciated that. I honestly just appreciate that he tried giving me hastily made life plan a shot. My hastily made life. Okay. I was the one who proposed after all. Oh! Got down on one knee and everything. She huffed slightly, something between a chuckle and a sigh. It's very funny and a little sad that Cliff still doesn't know why things changed between us. It's obvious to me, and I guess he does know deep down. He just never consciously made the connection.
it's all right.
I'm not even mad he didn't stay the same towards me. Love makes everything different. But you said... I know what I said. Huh? Wait, you still love him, but he doesn't... Listen. You have to tell me straight up what you're talking about. You can't just be like telling me loosely these things. She interrupted before Coco finished his blurted out interjection. I'm assuming she still loves Clifford. And Clifford doesn't think she loves him anymore, but deep down he still loves her too. So they both still love each other. Maybe? I don't mean Cliff and I. We were just two kids in a relationship that only ever worked when it was at its easiest. And then you were born, little Cove James Holden. I loved you immediately, and so did your father. Cove was stunned. His eyes started watering as his mouth clamped shut. The inclination we had towards each other paled in the face of that. Our love to you was the real deal. Cliff was the proudest papa. Then in true Cove fashion, tears began to fall. He stayed silent, but you're pretty sure Kyra knew the effect her words had on her son. No matter how much time passed, Cliff never got over how amazing it was that such a precious little boy was his. I should have taken pictures of how he'd puff up whenever someone referred to you as his son. She sounded much cheerier now. A slight smile crept onto his face despite his tears. Maybe like they did actually fall out of love. Maybe that's what happened. Because everything happened so quickly. They were only like in a relationship for 6 months. Bam, she had a baby. Bam, they got married. Bam, they're parents. Bam, they're on their own. That's like a lot. That's like too much to go on. And then to take care of a child, I think they just fell out of love with each other. But they still love their child. Because, you know, it's their child. Then again, he still does that now. It wasn't hard to imagine Mr. Holden lining up around baby Cove the same way he did with 18-year-old Cove. I remember how when a real argument started brewing, Cliff had a habit of walking away to cool off. He wasn't able to handle it. His son seems to have taken after him in that way. You heard her chuckle and Cove looked down and blushed clear on his cheeks. You could just feel her smirk through the phone. She breezed over the next section airily. For our whole relationship, he always ended fights by skipping out on me for who knew how long. I don't think even Cliff knew when he'd come back. That stopped when you were born. Cliff stopped running. He was still gone a lot for work, and we still had fights, but he wouldn't leave. Instead, he'd go to your room, Cove. If you were asleep, he'd just sulk on the ground by your crib until you woke up. Sometimes he'd pace the room while holding you or sit on the floor and rock you. He'd stay with you until one of us decided we were ready to talk again. We didn't have a lot of furniture back then. That's part of the reason why Cliff was always hanging out on the floor. He really came to embrace it. When our relationship got bad enough that we didn't want to share a bed anymore, he always made sure I got to have the mattress. He instead set up a spot in the corner of the nursery just in case you needed anything through the night. He gave you a more private space when you got bigger, but he still always made sure he could be there for you. There's no denying. Whether Cliff understands or not, he made his choices without prioritizing me. But it wasn't that he suddenly hated me. To Cliff, I was only a wife on paper. In his mind, I was a cool girl he had dated and generally liked. Nothing close to being the light of his life. Shit, dude, that kind of hurts. That really hurts. Jesus. All his blood, sweat, and tears weren't for himself, or for me, or even the family unit. They were all completely and totally for his baby. Meanwhile, I was doing the same, though in the opposite way. I did take us being married seriously. I was trying to force us together as a couple, so it would be a complete family for our child. It felt like a fly on the wall of a very personal conversation. Oh, now you do? Cole didn't seem to notice when you looked over at him. His face a complicated patchwork of emotions.
I guess.
Eventually, I woke up and saw what I was doing. I realized it wasn't going to work. Not like that. When I was ready for it, I talked to Cliff about separating and starting up the divorce process. He was shocked by it, and unfortunately, it wasn't too long after when you had your accident, Cove. Michiko, I don't know how much Cove really told you about it, but when he broke his arm, it terrified all of us. Cove could have died. Even back then, we knew he'd likely have a permanent scar he'd have to live with forever. Our parenting hurt our child, and he was the one who'd have to carry the repercussions. You were a bit taken aback to be referred to directly. You still felt a little out of place, and she seemed completely focused on her son. Cove grimaced, and the hand holding his phone shook. Mom. Kyra continued as if she never paused. It was heartbreaking, and then on top of it all, we had to put you through your parents breaking up. Taking that back was an option, despite the timing. It felt like everything we had worked so hard for to make you happy was for nothing. I chose to believe we'd fix our lives from there, but to Cliff, it seemed hopeless. He failed his son. It was easier for me in some ways. I had my family to lean on. That made it feel less daunting, less impossible. Cliff had only ever really known being on his own. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, okay. By the abstinence of his birth and then by choice. When we broke up, he knew he was going to have to put back the pieces of what was left alone. I wanted to be there for him, even after everything, but I was the one divorcing him. It was impossible. I never managed to be someone he truly relied on, and I had to remember that wasn't changing. As bleak as it felt at the time, Cliff still tried not to let any of that show to you, Cove. He did what he could to keep your spirits high about the move, your new house, the scar, everything. God damn, Cliff! Jesus, he's gone through hell. So that's why. Like, Kyra and Cliff has gone through hell, but we can obviously tell that Cliff has gone through worse because he literally had no one to lean on. Kyra had her parents still. Cliff trailed off. He had misunderstood the impact his injury had on his parents. You're reminded of something that made more sense now. Mr. Holden had been so helpful with Cove's old Halloween costume because he didn't want Cove to be saddened by the scar. It was clear Cove was coming to the same realizations. Now with that all said, if Cliff was a completely perfect and wonderful guy, I wouldn't have left him. If it was even pretty good, I would have stayed. It was hard not to have custody. Sometimes I felt like I was a fun aunt rather than the mom I always wanted to be. I might have overcompensated a little at times because of that. She forced to laugh, but it had an uncomfortable edge to it. You could tell she was trying to blow off a very real anxiety of hers. Cove looked ready to say something, but his mom kept talking, kept moving forward. Still, it's not Cliff's fault alone that our relationship didn't work. We were always better as co-parents than spouses, but I knew when separating that it wasn't going to be even. And Cove, the only reason I could stand not being there for you all the time is because I knew that if the situation was reversed and I could have provided a more stable environment, Cliff would have done the same. Oh my god, my voice. Your dad would give up his house, his shop, even his right arm if it would guarantee that you were safe and happy. So as painful as it was, I was sure you'd be okay because you were still with someone who loved you more than anything else in the world. Cove lowered his head, tears falling to the ground. He tried to speak. It took him a few tries. Thank you for telling me. His voice cracked and Kyra made an alarm sound on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to make you cry.
I get it.
It's okay. He was still crying, everyone could tell, being physically present or not. I love you, Mom. You've always been my mom, not some aunt. My mom. I love you too. The tone was thick with emotion. She was at the edge of a voice break herself. I'm so lucky to be your mom. She started to sniffle openly. Don't feel bad for me with how it worked out. I promise that none of it was your fault, and it's not as though I'm completely miserable over here. I have an incredible life with a beautiful baby boy of my own who calls whenever he can. At that, Cove's tears only came down heavier. Thank you. Kyra sighed affectionately, and you could hear the warmth in her voice. I think that's good for now. Maybe we should end the call. Take a moment. Is that really alright? He tightened his grip on his phone. You could see how emotionally exhausted he looked.
Of course.
We'll be in touch soon. For now, you'll only be able to keep thanking me or apologizing.
Hey!
Cove cried out defensively over the accusation, making his mom snicker. Bye, and goodbye to you, Michiko. I'm glad you're there for my baby. Talk to you later. Bye, Mom. Love you. Love you too. Cove hung up. He let his hand drop to his side, his phone brushing the fabric of his wetsuit. His other hand went up to his face. He tried to wipe the tears from his eyes. His face was red, and he struggled to put his phone back in his bag one-handed. You could tell he was getting worked up. He finally just used both of his hands to seal his phone back into its normal place. Cove sniffed and then reached out for you. His hand trembled in your grasp and he squeezed back. He needed to feel your support. Oh, you're so cute. You wanna go see your dad again? He didn't have to tell you what was on his mind for this. Cove nodded his head weakly. You rushed back to the way you came, feet pounding against the boards of the dock to return to the scuba shop for the third time. It was a little difficult to keep up with him. His stride was already longer than yours, but with him almost running, you had to pick up the pace. You reached his dad's door and Cove still wasn't slowing down. He pushed his way through the door at full speed. His hand released yours as he charged in. Mr. Holden had been walking around the middle of the store checking over things. Immediately he turned at the sound.
What's wrong?
Oh, where's the fire? Right here! Cove's the fire! He froze when he looked at Cove's face. He worriedly opened his mouth, probably to ask what was wrong, but then Cove launched himself at his father. Cove threw his arms around Mr. Holden's neck as he buried his face in his dad's shoulder and started to sob with deep, hitching breaths. Cliff clearly had no idea what was going on, and his hand hovered awkwardly in the air. He looked at you for a brief second, hoping for understanding before turning all his attention on Cove. Aww! It's so cute to see hugs in the game. I love this so much. He wrapped both his arms around Cove's back. Cove looked secure in his father's embrace, protected and safe. It's okay. It'll be okay, whatever it is. It's gonna be okay. Cove kept crying. He inhaled deeply, his voice choking up when he tried to speak.
I'm so sorry.
You always tried to be there for me when I was growing up, and I was mean to you. I'm sorry. I think most kids are like that, to be honest. I'm not saying all kids, most kids. You know, you have rebellious phase against your family. But as you get older, most of the time, you would feel guilty for being a brat. And then you'll love your parents and call them every day, maybe. I don't know. Maybe once in a blue moon. I don't know.
What?
Just look at his face. Look at his face. Mr. Holden was completely taken aback. He hadn't expected this to be the issue. You don't have to apologize for that, bud. Kids are allowed to be mad at their parents. It's my job to take care of you. I really didn't do anything special. Cove shook his head as empathetically as he could while still tucked in against his dad. You've always supported me no matter what. You've always loved me. I wish I realized how much you did sooner. Cove squeezed him tighter. Thank you. I love you, Dad. At his son's heartfelt confession, the father became choked up as well. He compressed Cove into a crushing hug. I do love you. I always will. You can count on that. I want to be there for you too. They clung onto each other, absorbed in the moment. Then after a little while longer, they slowly began to loosen their hold. That was cute. I'm just here, peanut gallery, watching everything happen today. Cove sniffled and moved so he could use his palm to wipe away his tears. His dad's shirt was visibly damp where his face had been. Cliff patted the top of Cove's shoulder and he looked at his son with pride. You've grown up so much. Cove started to laugh through his tears, away from his smile on his lips. He doubted that Cove would have ever thought that crying on his dad's shoulder was a sign of maturity, but it was true. Cove had changed over the years. You were glad to see Cove grow. You felt a little awkward. You thought you understood Cove's dad a little better now too. It made you wonder if there was more to understand about your moms. No, not really. Not really. I don't. I'm pretty Gucci with my parents. You're glad to see Cove grow. You thought you understood Cove's dad a little better now. I think. I understood Cove's dad a little better now. Your perception of Cliff had always been colored by the limited sides he was willing to show his neighbors, and then through Cove's eyes. What you learned today gave you more of a complete picture of him. It felt like you knew him better now, on his own merits. Cove wiped at his eyes again. You're a good dad. You're a good son. Mr. Holden was plainly touched by the words and beamed at his beloved child. Cove looked away and shyly traced his scar. Cliff chuckled and released Cove to rub the back of his neck. The earlier panic had bled off and left the confusion. I'm glad we had this talk, but what was it that made you cry in the first place? You weren't too bad off when you left before. Oh, Cove ducked his head further down, getting a very good look at the scuff marks on the floor. I called Mom. I wanted to talk to her about all of this. He kicked one of his feet shyly, swinging it back and forth against the ground. Things felt really hard when I was younger, but it wasn't just me going through stuff, Dad. You never give yourself credit. Cliff smiled gently and gripped Cove's shoulder with reassurance.
Oh.
Kyra is an amazing person to come to my defense. For me, the only hard part was seeing you and her unhappy. Everything else, that was nothing. He wrapped an arm around Cove's neck for another side hug. Cove leaned into the embrace and glanced up at his dad. Your old man is tougher than he looks. Check out how powerful these arms are. And this is 10 years on. I was in my prime those days. Cove laughed. It was a light sound full of fondness. Okay. It quieted down a little, finding a quick moment of seriousness. Thanks again, Dad. I know you don't want me to feel bad, and I'm happy because everything you and Mom did, I have a really nice life. Mr. Holden's countenance became much more serious. He didn't take what was said lightly. Cove, you're very welcome. That's so good to hear. Then he let Cove go again. This time they both took a step back to their normal proximity. Mr. Holden cleared his throat. He looked at you right in the eyes.
That's a relief.
I appreciate that you were here for his support. For support, Michiko. What a true friend. Ah! The pain! I thought I was his girlfriend! Did it not happen yet? Cove looked back down embarrassed. I'm glad I could be there. I want to be there for you too. Hey, I want to be there for you too, Mr. Holden. Thanks for finally noticing my presence. Finally, resolution both so sweet. You could have fun. I want to be there for you too, Mr. Holden. You know, nothing sexually, of course. Cove's dad broke into nervous laughter he couldn't keep in. Well, thanks, but you don't need to worry about me. I do worry about you, and I will worry about you. What did Kyra say? You know what? Don't answer that. I'm not sure I want to hear. Just that's thoughtful of you. Imagine if we could just date Mr. Holden here. It'd be kind of weird though, because we just turned 18, so never mind. Peace out. Cliff smiled warmly. He nudged Cove gently as if to say, look how lucky you are. Hey, maybe I ought to give you another $20 for Excuse me, you can't pay me off. I have to give you another $20 for all this. You've put up with a lot over the years. I think you're due lots of money. 20 times 10, sir. Co's cheeks puffed up into a pout. I could use some money. Please don't. Not this again. You laughed. You shook her head. I think I would just laugh. Cliff was a riot.
Sure.
Okay. I'll leave making jokes about that to Cove. Cove smiled satisfied at that. Alright. Cove exhaled slowly, his posture relaxing. We better get going. You still have work, Dad, and I think Machiko has been patient enough. I didn't bring her here to watch me cry to my parents. I'm glad he knows that I've just been here. Cliff grinned and waved the two of you off. Sure thing, I'm happy you both stopped in, but you gotta go have some fun. Be careful out there. I don't need to go jet skiing anymore. Machiko, if you still want to go, I don't mind watching. No way, you're a mature young man, and if you want to jet ski, then you should go out and jet ski. I'll still be here if you need anything, alright? Yeah, okay. Take care of yourself, let's get move on. Woo, I almost forgot why I came in the first place. Take care of yourself. Cove waved to his dad as he started walking out. You followed. When you turned back to Mr. Holden before he went out the door, he was waving. Bye, kids, you'll do great. Alright, Cove. You ready to hop on a jet ski now? How long has it been? Like maybe an hour, maybe. Once again, as had become today's habit, you and Cove walked down the dock side by side. But this time, Cove had a bounce back in his step. The smile was soft but radiant. Thanks for saying. Sorry for how long it took. You're welcome. You'd do the same for me. These things happen. I was curious anyway. It's fine. I had a feeling it'd be a bigger deal than it started as. Promise we won't have it. What the fuck? No. You do the same for me. You had his back and he had yours. It was just how things went between the two of you. He sidestepped to lean in closer to you and wrap his arms around you. You relaxed. See, this. I should have corrected his dad. I'm his girlfriend. Unless we're not girlfriend, boyfriend here, but the way he's acting, it seems pretty much boyfriend. He relaxed his embrace as he held you tightly. You hugged him back. You could smell the scent of the ocean on the breeze and feel the warmth of his chest. He exhaled and took a step back, his face dazzling a smile. The water lapped at the dock beneath your feet. Cove looked down when a particularly strong wave crashed against it. It's weird to think about my parents' relationship. There's all this stuff that I don't know because I wasn't there, or because I was just a kid, or because I didn't even exist yet. It feels really complicated. Relationships are complicated. I know what you mean. I feel that way about mine. Really? You didn't comment? I feel that way about mine IRL. I don't know about her feeling it with her parents. Like, her moms. Well, I guess you could be curious in a way, you know? You'd sometimes hear your moms talking about something and be completely surprised. It was strange when you had been around for something but hadn't truly understood it because you had been too young. Cove nodded without elaboration. He looked into the ocean wistfully for a moment before he shook it off.
It's nice.
I'm happy they were married, even if they didn't stay together in the end. I'm happy that you're all peppy again. Peppy? That's right, if you say so. He asked about what he thought about marriage for himself. Now he tried to... Ooh. No, let's keep going. Keep going the conversation. Fuck this jet skiing at this point. Are you scared of it? What? Marriage? You know, because of your parents' history? My parents never got actually married. So I was confused about that. Because I remember when I was a kid, like my mom and dad, they didn't have a wedding ring band. There was no wedding pictures or anything. So I remember asking my mom one day... asking her if my dad was my dad. Because in school, you know, they always say mom, dad, they're married, have wedding, have kids. But when I thought about it, I was like, my parents aren't married, but they have a kid. So is that not my dad? I don't know why my brain went that way, but I remember asking my mom that, and she was like, he's still your dad, we're just not married. And I just didn't understand. Cove shook his head shyly. He didn't hesitate for a second. No, surprisingly, I don't have issues about the idea of getting married someday. You looked at him, not bothering to hide your intrigue. He chuckled self-consciously at the reaction he got.
I mean...
Don't get me wrong, trying to actually propose would be terrifying. I'm sure planning a whole wedding would be so hard, especially for me. But just the thought of having someone I love, that I was married to, that I'd spend the rest of my life with, doesn't scare me. Aw, it makes me happy to think about. You're so cute. You're so cute. He's just scared of actually doing the things that will lead up to a marriage. The both of you snuck smiles at each other. What about you? Would you ever want to be officially married someday? Yes, it's something I really want someday. I don't see myself ever getting married. I'm not sure. I'd only get married if I found someone really special. I haven't really thought about it. You didn't want to answer. Marriage. I feel like, I mean, when I was little, I had like a whole plan. A whole wedding dress. I didn't have a theme. I just had a wedding dress idea. But even then, I don't even care about that. As I got older, I didn't really care about the whole marriage situation. I just feel like it's something to think about if you find someone special. So that's my thought of marriage. Even though, you know, you would think I would care about marriage because it's all girly-fied and everything, but no. I'd only get married if I found someone really special. The only wedding you could picture was with the perfect partner, someone you'd love dearly. You'd never get married just to be married. If you were going to get married, it would be to someone that you truly cherished. Oh. You quickly decided to change the subject after that admission. Alright, no more distractions. Let's go. It's time to jet ski. You laughed at him loudly. He only looked more determined. You were going to jet ski. I would hope so. We spent so long waiting. The two of you began to more quickly make your way across the boards. Despite your excitement, you were both careful. Neither of you wanted an accident, especially after what happened with Code's first jet skiing trip. You finally got to the rental place. You're surprised at how easy the process was. It took no time at all for Cove to climb on his jet ski with shaky legs. You rented your own jet ski? You decide to just watch Cove? No, what the fuck? We're renting our own! You'd spent this entire time wanting a jet ski and were thrilled to finally climb onto one. It was lime green and blue detailing. With blue detailing. The jet ski rocked slightly as you got on, bobbing with the waves. You looked across the cove. He sat motionlessly astride his jet ski, preparing himself to start it up. Even from your distance, you could tell his hands were clamped onto the handles too tightly. He was stiff and nervous. Go, Cove, you can do it! Come on, are you really gonna chicken out now? It'll be alright, Cove. Trust yourself. You let him have a moment. Trust yourself. It took a deep breath. You could see the rise and fall of his chest. Even his thing sounds nervous. He inhaled slowly and started up the jet ski. It poured forward, and you were surprised you could hear him squeak over the sound of the engine. He stopped a few seconds and breathed again. After he calmed down, he started up once more. Cove sputtered and stalled with it for a while, going a little farther each time. He grew more comfortable with the feel. He got the hang of the jet ski fairly quickly. It didn't take him long to learn how to turn properly and left it running for longer spurts of time. Cole eventually reached the point where he only stopped the jet ski when he had something to say. He kept shouting things at you. This is amazing! Did you see that, Michiko? This is so great! You got your own jet ski going as well. You made sure to keep a safe distance. Cole watched what you did with enthusiasm. Nice turn! He's so cute. He zoomed forward and you could hear his bright laugh ringing across the waves. You were relieved he'd taken it so well. It took the two of the jet ski like a fish in water. You were nervous about jet skiing, but you weren't bad at it. You never left the start and stop phase. It reminded you of a jet skiing game you played in the past. You didn't think you did well at jet skiing. I think I would be nervous, but I don't think I'll be that horrible at it. Knowing that jet skis could be dangerous, you kept a healthy caution over the vehicle. It was tricky at the start. You drove at a short burst, since each time you made it go forward, it seemed much too fast. You worried that you were going to fly off or the jet ski would flip over. However, it didn't take you long to realize that you had a decent control over the vehicle. You grew more comfortable with the controls and let yourself relax a little. Eventually, the sun set and you had to pack up. Cole was thankfully still in one piece, no cast necessary. After everything was returned, Cove dug his phone out of his bag and texted his parents to let them know all about his triumph. An idea to take a photo to mark the occasion struck Cove, and he wanted you to join him in a selfie. You got into a silly pose, you showed off your best angles, you covered your face in embarrassment, you smiled, you asked Cove to not take a picture of you. We're like besties, right? I think I would do a silly pose, maybe, because we're besties. Besties, because I don't know if we're in a relationship anymore. Cove snicked. When you got into a position, he hesitated for a moment before trying his own funny face. Cute. He showed you the picture and it made you smile. It would be a nice memory. His phone vibrated after only a moment after texting it out. Mr. Holden and Kyra had likely been waiting the entire day to find out how this outing would go. With the news of his success, both of Code's parents sent back how proud they were of Code for how far he'd come. Watching him grinning in the setting sun after facing so many fears that day, you felt the same. Ah, that was really cute. Holy shit, my throat hurts though. Wait, we're going back into the damn water with the boating? I'm hoping that's like a boat party or something. But anyway, this is it for the reflection DLC. So in this DLC, we're learning literally the backstory of Kyra and Clifford, which is very much needed because like I don't know like what happened to those two to like break them apart, but from the story of their experience, I feel like it's an experience many people can relate to that go through that situation, which I feel like my parents have, minus the wedding part. Luckily, I guess they didn't go through the wedding ceremony and stuff like that to go through divorce papers. They were just dating at the time and then just kind of, split off. They were like still talking to each other only when necessary. They're not as close as Kyra and Clifford still are, but it's alright. I appreciate that reflection DLC. The next DLC is Late Shift. I'm assuming we're working somewhere. I think my girl works somewhere, or maybe is it the volunteering they're doing? I have no idea. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.